How do Indigenous people share their life stories? You can find Indigenous life stories through art, music, drama, literature, and many other forms of media. Former Prime Minister Paul Keating challenged Australia to think of a world in which Australian cultural identity is not distinguishable from Aboriginal cultural identity. It is by understanding Indigenous culture at large, as well as listening to individual life stories, that we begin to understand Australia as a united nation. In the not too distant past, racism has been used to classify people as Indigenous. However, it is culture rather than colour of skin that makes a person identify with being Indigenous. It is culture that defines Indigenous identity, the beliefs, traditions and stories that are passed down from generation to generation. A report on a review of the administration of the working definition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in 1981 proposed a definition of what it means to be Indigenous. It said, "An Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander is a person of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander descent who identifies as an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander and is accepted as such by the community in which he or she lives." However, many Indigenous people have found it difficult to have their status as Indigenous recognized by certain organizations. I'm going to read you the life story of an Aboriginal man called Bob, whose identity as an Aboriginal has been challenged. The story can be found on australianstogether.org.au, where you can watch a video about his life, as well as other videos of people's stories, and find other resources. Bob has struggled to let go of the resentment he feels towards the government, church, and society for the role they played in depriving him of his culture. Bob will never know the full extent of the cultural heritage that was stolen from him when his grandfather was taken from an Aboriginal mission and placed in a boys' home at the age of 12, before he inherited the cultural traditions and knowledge due to him. What Koori culture Bob has inherited was intertwined with a culture of heavy drinking and smoking marijuana. He says sadly, "The more I did get into that drinking and smoking pot, the more culture it took away from me." Bob describes his personal challenge to fit into current society while maintaining his Koori identity. "There's a lot more family division in modern culture," he says. "We have been directed into working, getting a job, looking after family, so therefore your houses are smaller, you can't have as much family around." Bob explains that moving forward is not about what people can do to fix problems. Rather, he says, it's about listening in order to understand the hurt and the things that have caused it. Forget trying to implement reconciliation, he says. Live it. Raymond's story can be found on creativespirits.info. Raymond says, "I'm Aboriginal Afghan on my dad's side and Scottish on my mum's side. All through school we were half-castes, or people would ask, 'What percentage of you is Aboriginal?' But for me, I'm Aboriginal. It's all or nothing. You can't choose to be a part of it. I guess it's like being pregnant. It's either you're pregnant or you're not. You can't be 10% pregnant. When someone from the Aboriginal community knows that you're Aboriginal, it's accepted. We've got the connection, we've got the similarities. But for non-Aboriginals, often it's, 'But you don't look Aboriginal,' or 'You're only part Aboriginal, so that doesn't count.' People have an image in their minds of what an Aboriginal looks like, which is often black, very traditional, maybe standing with a spear, one leg up. If somebody doesn't fit into that narrow frame set, then they think they can't be Aboriginal, or at least not 100% Aboriginal." Australian artist Bindi Cole explored Indigenous identity through what non-Indigenous people thought Aboriginal people looked like. She highlighted the fact that Aboriginal people don't fit into any particular race, but can look very different. She challenges racism and stereotyping of Aboriginal people.